the more I understand technology, the more I understand it should be human-centric. It should save us globally, all communities in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in America, anywhere. It's not for a country or for a region, no at all. So when we talk about innovation, and innovation allows you to take this frog leaping into the future, look what's happening in the GCC. It's just amazing what I'm seeing. But we need that responsible innovation, similar to responsible AI, go hand by hand to ensure that we are serving the big purpose, which is a human-centric technology.
Hisham, good evening. It's good to see you.
Hello. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Oh, it's great. It's great to have you here. Welcome to Innovators Inside. Last time I saw you was in a room in Doha, and now we're kind of facing each other across the screen. So I'm really excited to have you on the pod.
Thank you very much. And I couldn't be happier being on this podcast. You know why? Because I'm a big believer that innovation should serve people first. And how is that? It should connect communities, reduce barriers, and create opportunities. And your podcast is actually a representation of that. So thank you for having me.
Oh, amazing. Well, I'll take a guest like complimenting me before we've even gotten started. We're going to see if you're still saying nice things at the end here. No, it's absolutely wonderful. And for folks who don't know him, I'm just so thrilled that Dr. Hisham Alasad has joined us today. I've had the chance to work with him, see him in action. We have a thought leader in innovation joining us on the pod, so I can't wait to hear what you have to say. But before we dig in, I like to play a little bit of a game. And so, Hisham, I'm going to ask you just a few questions, and I don't want you to think too much. I just want you to answer with whatever is off the top of the dome.
Okay, here we go.
Sound good? And let's start with, what's a guilty pleasure app or tool that you can't live without?
Chocolate after 8 p.m. Absolutely.
Oh, what is it?
I love eating chocolate after 8 p.m.
Yeah. Okay. So you just that is like your brain food.
Just do it. It's 8 p.m. I have chocolate and then start, because, I supervise researchers at university. So, yep. I have to read a lot. I take my hit of chocolate and start working. So
okay, so I love it. So this might answer the next question, but are you a morning person or a night owl? Where do your best ideas come?
I am an early bird. Usually I'm at my office at 6:30. I wake up at 5:30, go for my run, have my coffee, and start my day.
Oh, incredible. Okay, well, coffee in the morning, chocolate in the evening. You're burning both ends.
But I'll tell you why is that, if you're interested, why I have this kind of lifestyle. When I was doing my doctorate, I was a dad. I have a full-time job, so I have a family. I've got work and I've got a study to look after. Wow. For almost 3-4 years, I did not sleep more than 4 hours a night. And that's because I'm working at 5 or 4 a.m., trying to squeeze 2 hours of study before I go to work, get in the family, sorted the kids, go to work, come back, do the family, and then study from 8 to 11 and sleep 4 or 5 hours. That was for 3-4 years. Yeah.
That's unreal. I mean, I got to tell you, as somebody who feels like he has needed 8-9 hours of sleep every night for his entire life, I struggle with this. I really struggle with this, but good on you.
I did not have an option.
You are entitled to your chocolate habit.
I did not have an option, Matt. But yeah, thank you very much.
All right, I want to get a little deeper. You're very thoughtful about the present and the future. What is one skill that leaders in the future absolutely have to master?
Quite funny. I was having dinner with my friends 2 nights ago at a cafe here called Flamingo. We were watching the soccer game between Lebanon and Sudan. So there's now a tournament in Qatar called the Arab Cup, and there's the qualifiers now. And we were just talking, chit-chatting, and I did mention that the skill that stays with you for life is the emotional intelligence. It's our duty to teach our kids how to be emotionally intelligent, how to be socially accepted. When they go into the playground when they are 3-4 years old, they need to know how to interact, how to play. So even the grown-ups ourselves, when you see social kid, you just love them by nature, right? And they go to school, they're able to form friendships at school. they go to the real life, they're able to do like professional relationships as well. They're able to communicate. They go into leadership. They go into
Yeah.
marriage, and everything is the emotional intelligence and the social skills. That's my answer.
You know what? I think it's a great answer. And you know what I love about that answer is I don't think that's all that different from what the leaders of the past have had to master, right? Like we are humans, we are a network of people who need to interact with each other. And, I feel like in this world of what feels like constant change in some ways, that feels consistent to me and important. It is a North Star for how we succeed in life.
I think it's another start for the human race, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
whether you are east, west, north, south, it doesn't matter. You need to be able to
Yeah.
communicate and feel loved and spread love. It's pretty simple for me, at
I,
least.
you know what, I completely agree. And you would be super happy to know that in the conversations that I've had with my wife about our young children, uh, this is her number one priority as well. She's
Ah,
much smarter than I am, so I listen to everything she says, and it makes sense. So thank you for sharing.
fantastic. Please pass my greetings to your lovely wife as well.
I absolutely will. All right, I'm actually going to ask you one more. I need
Go
a,
for
I need like a super short answer to this.
it.
AI, friend, foe, or something else?
It is a friend that we have no choice of saying otherwise. It is here to stay,
Oh,
and it's
good.
better to accept and accommodate and adapt to the existence of AI for the end of a human race. It is here to stay.
I okay, so I'm inclined to agree with you, although at first that gives almost Terminator vibes, which is not what you're saying, right? You're not like, oh, like we'd better make it a friend or it's going to get us.
It's not a
It's that
terminator
it
vibe.
is,
It becomes part of the family.
yeah. Okay, it's the exchange student that moved in and won't leave.
It is it is the robot, is the brain in that robot that you and I will have in 10, 15 years, whether we like it or not, to do our chores. It will become part of our life. It's quite funny. We're just having a chat the other day. It's not very far in the future. I'm assuming that 5, 10 years maybe, the keyboard will disappear. So our
Oh,
our our our, our interaction with laptops and computers will be completely different. So the next evolution in human technology would be speech to text. So that's where the AI comes. You're gonna wake up in the morning talking to AI agents that checks your emails, another agent that does checks the power, the sustainability, the carbon emission, other agents to check that you reported to your boss, and all of that will be like AI centered kind of lifestyle.
you know what? I'm inclined to agree with you, but because I'm an argumentative type,
Go
I'm
for
going
it.
to make a gentleman's bet with you right now, a little handshake.
Hmm.
I bet that you said 5, 10 years. I bet 10 years from now, the keyboard is still a part of everyday life.
Hmm.
We you take that bet for a handshake?
Okay, let me argue back. I mean, typewriters, they disappeared, but there's still some of them. Some people use them. Is that the kind of
Typewriters
existence
did
you're talking
disappear.
about? Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
is that what you're referring to? Like just a punch, or you talking about they still there as a
No,
main thing?
typewriters didn't disappear. Typewriters evolved. Their role in our world changed, but both of us interact with a keyboard modeled on the keyboard of typewriters. In fact, designed after the physical layout of typewriter keyboards every day.
Okay, so 28th of November, 2035, I say that we will be using speech to text capabilities, and you saying will be keyboard. So let's see. Happy.
Let's
I
go.
shake
Let's
hands.
go. The shake hands. Yep. Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah,
I love this. To be very clear, I
yeah.
believe there will be both, and I believe speech to text may be the majority of our interaction. But it's really interesting because this is kind of on the topic of innovation and something you and I have talked about, which is that often it comes with sort of behavior changes. I spent a lot of time in hardware, and there's always these questions when you get these technology enabled shifts, touch screens, voice, gestures, whatever it might be. What will they replace? And in my experience, they almost never replace a prior input modality. They may reduce it, but keyboards didn't replace handwriting. reduced handwriting dramatically, but they didn't replace it. They actually opened up a whole new set of typing. I think that's going to be voice for me. I think voice, and the fact that we have AI systems and agents that can not only transcribe what we're doing, but understand it, reason on it, and take action on it. Yeah, I do actually think it's going to take over the majority of our compute interaction. But I think part of that is because it's going to make a larger percentage of our life a compute interaction. If that does that actually make sense?
I tend to agree. They will not replace, they will complement and elevate.
Yeah.
This all the new capabilities, they come suddenly, especially in the hardware sphere. They show up in our life and they take the majority of the what do you call it, the shares of our interactions with that kind of capability, but they do not fully replace. You're right. Is it because we are humans and we are hoarders and we just do not let go? Think about it. That
I mean, it might be. We might just hang on. The counter argument would be that, there's there's the right modality for the right action, the right tool for the right job. And the more tools we get, the more options we have on which tool to use in different moments. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to put in my calendar 2035. We're going to reconnect, and we're going to, assuming we're not all like linked into Elon Musk's Neuralink and just talking to each other through telepathy. We're gonna see how this goes.
I
But
think Elon Musk is a good guy. He thinks about humanity. He's got his own way of looking at things. People do not understand what he's talking about. But the thing is, if you notice, Ian, the more you understand technology and its impact, like we start, what's the technology impact on myself, on my family, on my team, on my organizations? But as we develop and mature in our thinking, we see how technology actually impacts the human race. And this is why all these big thinkers or millionaires or billionaires, they're talking about a humankind lens. I like to talk about the lens. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not the smartest, but I speak from that lens as well.
you know what? I love that, and I think it's so. I, you were talking just a second ago about an important skill in empathy and in understanding other people. I mean, you were sort of talking about it in social skills and being able to interact, but there's a piece of this of being able to put yourself in other people's shoes. And you just demonstrated that, actually, which is really cool, and I think a lesson for all of us, a really important lesson, actually.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm just going to leave that there. Like that was cool. And hey, since this is a conversation, you may notice lights changing on my side, things
I
like
saw that.
that. We just lost power, so I have backup systems. We're going to continue the pod, but if I disappear, I'll be back. Um,
So you lost power on the morning of Thanksgiving Day. What? This is what? What's happening?
Black Friday, too many people shopping.
Yes,
Who
it is
who
Black
knows?
Friday.
Who knows what's going on? But this is one of those things. Okay, so like we live in a world of AI and magic and all these capabilities, and yet one of the things that is always funny to me is that it feels like basic infrastructure is getting more fragile, right? And so there's more and more power outages, and obviously that's a big conversation these days. Do we even have enough power for the world? And the answer is no, it seems. But even things like the reliability of phone calls, we can have across continents this incredible video chat right now, and yet technically it's not actually as reliable as picking up a phone 50 years ago, right, on my landline and placing a call. And I think that's kind of, I don't know what that is. I think it's pretty fascinating.
It is fascinating, and again, a couple of things. Can I quickly just talk about randomly? You talked about Black Friday. I noticed in Qatar they call it the White Friday, and I asked why is that, and apparently because Friday is a holiday in the Islamic faith, and they cannot just associate the black to it, so they say the White Friday. All the
Yeah.
advertisements here in Doha is the White Friday. So talking about Black Friday and White Friday. Other thing, I was at the Mobile World Congress conference here in Doha a few days ago, right? And we're just having a chat about a drone. And I've been told that the newly equipped drones in the Russian-Ukrainian war, they're not actually wireless anymore. There is a wire, a fiber cable
I
wire
saw that.
connected to it, just to go back to the credibility and reliability you're talking about back in the days. They want to keep it that
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Well, you're right. And it's okay. Okay. So speaking of innovation, I mean, boy, dual use in defense tech seems to be a topic everybody's okay with these days, which is a change. But yeah, like, isn't that wild, right? Um, drone and drone warfare is a thing. It is here to stay.
Yeah,
And now they're tethered across kilometers. They're tethered by fiber optic cables. Have
I
you seen
know.
the photos of the? Have you seen the photos of kind of
I've seen
the
it, and
fields?
I could not believe it. But see, like
It's
how innovation can be so simple sometimes. So
yeah,
if you got a what do you call it, a wireless drone that could be jammed, controlled, all of that, just could get rid of with the wireless, go back to the wire. As simple as that. They chuck the wire in it, and they just keep going.
yeah. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Well, okay, let's talk about some of the innovation, Hisham, that you've been involved with. Because honestly, it's been so much. But you know, we met in Doha. You
Yeah,
have an incredible role with Qatar Airways, and you know, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. But you have such a cool career, and you actually come out of the banking sector.
true.
And you know, we had a little bit of a conversation before we got started about innovation in finance in the banking sector and how it is not necessarily equally distributed around the world. And I guess I'm going to be honest, innovation is not always good in the banking center, in the banking sector. It's probably caused a few economic disasters in its day. But that, such as it is, I would love to hear a little bit of your story, right? How did you come to this world that we call innovation? And what has that meant to you, particularly in terms of opportunities that you've seen in banking, financial services, et cetera?
That's a very deep question. But I'll try my best
Only
to
the
answer it.
deepest for us.
Yeah. I'll try to answer it. Look, again, it all started from the mindset. I see things from like a human race lens. Again, as I said at the beginning, I'm a big believer that innovation should serve people first. And that's by connecting communities, reducing barriers, and unlocking opportunities. I started about like 20 years ago in the street intersections of digital transformations, and and then evolved into the concept of innovation. I'm with a Palestinian background. I'm from New Zealand, the land of the long white cloud. And then recently, 4 or 5 months ago, I moved to Qatar because the innovation was attractive. People ask me actually, why did you move to Qatar? I have my own personal reason and professional reasons. Let's start with the personal ones. Um, I'm always conscious of stagnation, Ian. It's
Okay.
easy. It's easy to get into that trap as a technologist
Yes.
without noticing, especially when you are deep in your comfort zone. I've been in the financial services doing innovation for a wee while. Yes, I've got my hands on the shiny tools. I know what's happening and all of that. But you reach to the point you know the ins and outs. You even to the point where you expect you able to predict what happens next, what people will think, etc., etc. And that's what you need to give yourself a kick or a nudge. And that's where you need to give yourself a challenge. For me, innovation is overcoming fear. That's my definition of
Ooh.
innovation, by the way.
We're going to talk about that later. I'll let you
Very,
continue now,
very
though.
simple, very simple. Innovation fear. And what could be more unsettling than changing country, culture, industry, and go to a country you know no one in it, just because you're attracted to the innovation they're doing. The innovation frontier is shifting around the world, and now the momentum is building in the GCC, and I would like to
Yep.
be part of it. As simple as that.
Well, and it's as simple as that, but it's important. And so, you know, let's talk a little bit about some of the innovation that you've been involved with in the past. And so, for instance, you're a really big advocate of open banking. Open banking is certainly a form of both technical but also procedural and regulatory innovation. You know, tell me a bit about that. Why is it important? And what does it mean to you?
I'm not only a fan of open banking, I did my doctorate in open banking as well. Just, just
So, a fan, a thought leader, advanced the state of the art. So,
uh,
you should be able to answer this question.
just to add to it. So as you know, I wear two hats as a professional and as academic as well.
Yes.
Um, So what's happening with that? Let me just give you a background about open banking, where it all started. They did some review in the UK, EU, of what's happening in the traditional banking industry, and they found that it lacks competition, surprise, surprise, and innovation. So they decided, you know what, we're gonna do some, they call it a regulatory intervention to force banks to do something about it. And that what they did, they said, banks, now we need to shift the power into the customer's hand. We need to give the customers the ability to decide to share their financial data with other competitors, whether they are
Mm.
banks or other players, i.e., called fintechs, the small players. Before that, while you actually own the data, but the banks, they will make it so difficult for you to grab that data. You need to go
Yep.
to the bank, you need to ask for a paper copy, stamped, notarized, certified. If you apply for any other bank, good luck. Even I read
It's a
somewhere,
nightmare.
it is a nightmare. I read somewhere, um, it's funny. Um, the probability of you going into many marriages, breaking up your marriage and going into multiple relationships, it's higher than breaking up with your face bank.
Because just that's incredible because of the lock-in,
It's a
basically,
lock-in.
because of the friction and the difficulty of moving systems. Is that
Absolutely.
true globally? Does that vary by kind of region, by country?
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. They make it
Yeah.
that way. They designed it that way. So they came with open banking and they said, banks, you're supposed to be able to exchange data with other banks and entities using standardized APIs. The objective is to improve competition and entice innovations. So what does that mean? In my definition, that will change the conduct and the behavior of the banking industry, the traditional banking industry. Suddenly the banks has to face to the fact they do not own the data anymore. They have to face the
Yep.
fact that Ian and Hisham have the power to say, send my data to that fintech, to that startup. I want to work with them. So
Yep.
retention rate not guaranteed anymore. The concept of that sham fake loyalty towards original banks is not there anymore. The relationship between one-to-one relationship, that means your relationship to one bank changed to one to many, because you now you have kind of relationship with many banks and with many fintechs. That fundamentally changed or will change the traditional banking industry. And I examined all of that in my research.
Well,
Fair enough,
and
but
what was the core thesis of
I
your doctorate?
examined the impact of open banking in the social constructions of the banking industry. What does that mean? How the relationship between customer and bank changed from transactional into social, and how banks reacted or will react into open banking. That will change its position. Some banks will decide, I'm just gonna do the wait and see, do nothing. That's a failure. That's a death recipe, basically. Some banks will
Yep.
say, you know what, I will accept that I do not have development capability, so I will rely on the fintechs to come with all awesome capabilities, and I will turn into a distributor. Yeah. So I will take all these capabilities from fintechs and become a distributor to my customers. Other banks will say, no, no, no. I will focus on development. I will do the capabilities, but I will rely on the fintechs for the distributions. They become manufacturer. In a very advanced form, some banks will say they will strip to their bare bones. They will say, I will only offer the KLM, know your customers, and anti-money laundering, anti-terrorism kind of regulations with the banking license, and I will turn into platform marketplace where all fintechs will come saying, I'm a distributor, I have a capability, and I will just clip the ticket. That's a very
Yeah.
advanced form, and that's where we're heading at some stage.
Well, and to your point, it's really interesting to sort of bucket banks into, or any organization, right, into the resistors, the people that embrace, et cetera. But I mean, there's an entire generation that I think grew up, certainly in the US where I grew up. I'm less familiar with the rest of the world, but there's an entire generation that grew up with tools that were deliberately trying to push against this concept of open banking, right? Like Mint, Plaid, right? I remember
I know
the
Vlad.
first, I mean, I think 20 years ago or something when I first used Mint. That I'm dating myself. I can't remember how long ago it was, but like it was a little revelatory, right? All of a sudden there was a product that in one place could just show me all of my accounts, which is so simple and yet so important and so hard to do. And then, to the best of my knowledge, Plaid has been fighting the good fight with limited success, some success, but limited success, to try and, enable consumers to interop across financial services for some time. And yet, despite having grown up with the obvious availability of these concepts and technologies, it is still incredibly hard to get my account at my primary bank to talk to my primary brokerage.
And this is why the regulator intervention is very important. Unfortunately, the banks are not coming to play ball, correct? So they need to be forced, and this is why the open banking regulations. So in countries
But
like,
okay,
yeah,
but do they help? Let me ask, like, are regulators potentially proponents, or are regulators part of the problem?
well, it depends which country, which region. I can speak, for example, for New Zealand and Australia. They are actually they looking at it holistically. I like their approach. They said we're gonna introduce a legislation called Customer Data Rights (CDR), and we're gonna go industry by industry. They started with the banking, and then they're gonna go into telecom, and then utility and energy. And they say with the
Interesting.
banking, yeah, with the banking, they say banks, you need to release two kind of information: the account information and the payment initiation. And for that, they are there is two APIs, standardized APIs, banks have to adhere to. Correct. So suddenly, Hisham is able to have. I have, let's say, like there are five, six banks over there in New Zealand or Australia, and suddenly, one bank I use it to pay my power, internet. The other one I get paid. The other one I pay my kids, and all of this is complexity. Suddenly, there
Sure.
is there is a fintech that comes saying, "Hey, just authorize me to extract your data, and I will tell you exactly your ins and out, your balance sheet, or what's happening, your spendings. I will go do payments on your behalf, and not only that, I will help you to budget your plans, your goals. Like there is an app called Plum in the UK that does that amazingly, and not only that, all of that, all of that in the pocket of the financial well-being. Yeah, all of that in something called the PFM, personal financial management. And this is why I told you earlier that innovation, the proper innovation, in my views, should be human centric. Does it
Yeah.
add value to humans? So when we build this budgeting tool or fintech, is it to sell the product or actually to help our customers to have a better financial well-being, get them out of the hole? This is the idea, and this is where innovation actually delivers its purpose.
Well, okay. And interestingly, it is being driven by a very sort of consumer, and I would say citizen centric, like that, I guess, is ideally the role of government services, citizen centric view of what should be possible. Um, is where did the problem where did the problem statement come from? Is this coming from consumer complaints about friction? Is it coming from an independent party or academic research saying, wait, this is
That
crazy? Like, where is the catalyst for open banking coming from?
it came from a review. There is something called Payment Directive um, Review, PSD1 and PSD2. That's in Europe, EU. They did a review and they found that this is not good. It's completely monopolistic industry. There are five, four
Yeah.
players in each country, and you know what? I will hold the punch of my customer base. And as I said, nobody leaves because they made even switching between banks is so complex, and there is no innovation, high
Yeah.
prices, high fees, lack of products and services. They only sell you mortgages
Yeah.
and credit cards. There is nothing.
Yep.
So if we want to democratize the accessibility of data, and if we want to have financial inclusion, because not everyone can have a bank account or have the talent to manage a bank account, we need this fintech to make it simple for them. And
Yeah.
in order for the fintech to work, the fintech, they said, guess what? I have the technology. I'm a startup. I'm agile. I can do things. I've got slick UX, but I need the data. And only then,
You know,
yeah.
one of one of the things that you and I've talked about in the past is that real solutions and innovation often come when the gap between what people know should be possible and the service they actually get becomes untenable, right? It just becomes so huge that people get really
Hmm.
frustrated.
Hmm.
And as you're talking, I'm thinking about the fact that as a company, my company, Alchemist, we have banks in multiple countries. we have to physically have somebody fly to one of those countries. I'm not going to name the country to do major banking transactions, which is insane. It is insane to have to be physically present, walk into a branch with a stamp, which by the way is something that we didn't, it wasn't even a concept, to do work. And you look at that and you're like, in today's world where I can seamlessly, and with high confidence move money around in crypto, communicate on Zoom, do whatever. It seems crazy. And so it is interesting because I do feel like maybe we should be at a tipping point. But the question is, how do you break the logjam, right? Can the regulators
Yeah.
actually do it? Does one country break and then open it up for everyone else? Does this have to be done region by region?
First of all, I understand it is insane, but unfortunately, it's a reality what you just described. I have a
It
good
is.
news
It
and
is the
bad news.
reality.
I have a good news and bad news. Let me start with the good news. Open banking now, you look at it saying just opening the data silos between your information can be exchanged with other banks or fintechs within the banking system, right? That's called open banking using
Yep.
standardized APIs. This concept will evolve to become open finance. So what does that mean? This APIs, standardized APIs, will be shared with other financial institutions, superannuations, insurance, and things. So suddenly, Ian, you will be using a fintech app, and they tell you, "Hey, you're paying too much for your insurance. Why you even with that provider? Go with the other provider, because you have the AI and the power to analyze the way you're spending and your things, and give you
Yeah.
suddenly you have access to a more affordable, cheaper product and services, competitive. This is the promise behind the open banking.
Is this
Um,
happening anywhere in the world right now? I
it
mean, you
is
mentioned sort of the ANZ region. Is there anywhere else
it,
that's sort of a
it
leader?
is happening in the ANZ region in a small scale. It's happening in Scandinavian countries, the Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. And
Yep.
Finland is not Scandinavian, but Finland and Norway, they are so advanced in that things. But in order to have open banking up and running or open finance, you need the government intervention in terms of regulation, and you need to have a concept called digital identity.
Yeah.
So if you do not have a digital identifier that would work as like
Yep.
this is me, so all banks know who you are, and a
Yeah.
body that will actually authenticate that it is you, Ian, not Hisham's trying to impersonate you, it's not gonna work. And that's where the challenge is.
Well, and interestingly, I mean, that's actually really fascinating because maybe more so than most other sectors, it does seem that sort of finance and banking probably intersects with government digital identity requirements, things like health, security, you name it. So, there are countries in the world that have very strong governmental frameworks for digital identities.
Mm.
Uh, Interestingly, I didn't hear like the one I think of is Estonia, but I know there's quite a few. I think Lithuania. I think actually all the Baltics are doing this.
I'll tell you something. Like in New Zealand, for example, we do not have a digital. We don't have an ID. We do not have a national ID. I'm not sure if the states you guys have a national ID.
No, we
We don't.
don't actually. Yeah,
We only have
it's been a discussion for 30 years.
and passports. That's all we have.
Yeah,
Yeah. But when I came to the GCC to Qatar, I've been given a card with a national ID, and this national ID number, it's called QID number. It actually identifies you everywhere. It's even
yeah,
in your driver license. In Scandinavian countries, in Sweden, for example, they have something called person number, which means personal number. And it's something, the
yep.
second you are born, the tax department will issue with this number and it stays with you until departure. That's it. It's used everywhere, at the clinic, at the doctor, at the hospital, at the airport, at the financials, at the banks. They know everything about you, but this is your identifier. You need that thing in order to enable all this ecosystem of data exchange.
So there's some prerequisites, but they're starting to come into play. So are you optimistic? Are you optimistic that a world of not just open banking but open finance is possible, probable?
It is probable, but I think unfortunately it will take some time. Um, I'll tell you what. In a talk 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, yeah, I said there is something, a concept called, in my opinion, the Holy Trinity, and that's the open banking and open data. I meant the exchange of data in ecosystems, wider international global ecosystems, the AI and the quantum computing. So, in order to have amazing offering products and services for the consumer, for the human. Again, think about the human-centric technologies. That's what I'm advocate for, right? You need to have this the capability, the AI, but AI needs a compute power behind it. You need the quantum computing. So when these three technologies mature or intersect at some stage, which I said 3 years ago, about 8 years, so I'm looking about 2030, then you will have some amazing thing, because you will have the data floating around thanks to the open banking, open finance, open data for enforced. You will have the AI capability maturing and able to do this deep analysis, and you have the compute power behind it. Put them together, that's where the human race will go into another leap in our future.
Okay, well, I'm excited. So we've now made two predictions in this episode. We got 2035. Now we have a 2030 timeline to
30ish,
check in on.
30ish, yeah, 30ish, yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, ish. I obviously, but I love this. So I want to step back because we're talking about innovation, change, new capability in um, yeah, in actually kind of a hard, tightly regulated area, but important, something that touches all of us. I want to step back for a second and talk about innovation all up. Um, and you talked about it as overcoming fear. You use those words, which is really fascinating. So tell me again what that means. And then I want to talk about this framework you've been noodling on, the responsible innovation framework. But what does it mean to, like, why is innovation overcoming fear?
Think about it, Ian. If you want just if you're trying to do things where everyone does things, you're not gonna get any unique or something out of the box kind of results and outcomes, right? So you
Totally.
need you
Like,
need to push
do
the
the same
boundaries.
thing, get the same output.
You need to push the boundaries. You need to push the envelope. But guess what? The boundaries and things, this is where it's scary, right? It's subject to failure. The brand, you've been branded as a failure. It's subject to depletion of budget and investment and not having the traditional return on investment. How dare you asking for money and you're not going to give me money back? What does that even mean? There is the thing of people pushing back, resistance as well. So all these things make people always feel, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So you need to overcome that fear, to push the envelope, to
Yep.
do the unthinkable in order to reach scratch the surface of innovation. This is my thought
So,
process.
you know what? It makes sense, and I think it ties into a lot of kind of the theory and the research and the literature on risk taking and all that. But it's hard, right? Like, you're really asking people to push through fear. That fear is there for a reason, right? The fear is there because things can go horribly wrong. How do
Yeah.
you think about guiding innovators through, not maybe not just embracing the fear, but managing the idea that things can go wrong?
I have a couple of things to say on that. First of all, I was having a chat with a colleague of mine, and he was saying that any ideas should be grounded with realism. And my answer to him was to them was, this is why you don't have the innovation mindset. Because when you talk innovation, it's three things, right? It's a philosophy. You should have that philosophy running across the organization. I'm talking about like corporate innovation kind of
Yep.
philosophy. You need to have the mindset, and not everyone have this mindset. Not everyone, it's people, because this is fear, but they will camouflage it with regulations. They camouflage it with risk. They camouflage it with,
Yep.
you know what I mean. But it is fear to push the boundaries, and it is
Yep.
practice. So, in
Practice.
order to do innovation, you need to have the philosophy running. You need to have the mindset, the growth mindset, the curious mindset, and all of that, and practice. And for that practice, I was thinking actually, I want to shout out to my workmates and colleagues, to Haider, Laith, and Maggie. We're discussing a concept called responsible innovation. So,
Yeah. Tell me.
inspired by the responsible AI framework that everyone is talking about, everyone is discussing, and we understand. There was McKinsey published a recent paper about how even adopted AI with a responsible AI adoption is actually increases the return on investment, right? So I was thinking, why don't we think about the introducing the responsible innovation framework? Right now, innovation is moving faster than governance, faster than
Yes.
society, correct? And
By like an order of magnitude.
correct, and even faster than the people's ability to trust it. So look at the AI. It takes massive leaps. There is abundance of capabilities of AIs every day, but very limited guide rails. So we thought, why don't we apply the logic of responsible AI to innovation itself? Does it make sense? In my
I
opinion,
mean, it
it
makes
does.
sense, but how do we do it? What tell me, what does that framework look like? How
Okay.
do we put it into practice?
For me, responsible innovation means creating innovation that it is scalable, ethical, inclusive, and beneficial to society, not only to the balance sheet. Yeah. So what we need to do, in order to do that, we need to think about a few things. We need to have what I call it the purpose alignment. We need to align the business objectives, organization objectives with the human
Okay.
outcome. We need to
Purpose
start thinking,
alignment.
yeah, human outcomes. Like we need to ask questions. Um, who would benefit from that, and who's left behind? We need to start thinking about that.
Yep.
Yeah, we need when with the responsible innovation, we need to think about the open innovation ecosystem.
Okay.
With a closed innovation, you cannot do it. As simple as that. You need to have these
Yep.
partnerships. You need the open APIs. You need the open data. You need the partnership with the startups, with the research institutes, with the education institutions.
You need the recognition that no matter how many resources you
You
have a fraction of the
exactly,
resources available in the world.
absolutely, because working with universities will give you the fresh thinking, for example. Working with the
Yep.
startups will give you the speed, etc., etc. And then the things that people always come and critique innovation about, they say, you guys destroyers. No, we're not destroyers, we're disruptors. And I believe that innovation without governance is very chaotic, right?
Yep.
So we need to work and think about, we need to learn about all these responsible AI terms. We learned about the bias, right? We need to be sure that in our innovation is not biased. We need to think about what do you call it, the drift. The drift monitoring in AI as well. When the outcomes start drifting from where we're
Yep.
heading, and then we recalibrate again, we need to think about that. Because if we start doing innovations and it is biased against ethnic group or specific group, this is not good innovation. We need to start thinking about as well about return on investment. We need to add the component to it. The total return on investment will be the traditional return on investment plus our ESG component. Yeah, we want to see who's benefiting from all of that. Yeah, we look at the open banking, for example. It allows for
Yeah.
financial inclusion, to allow a lot of unbanked communities to take their first step towards
Yep.
financial identity. Yeah,
Yep.
and and we need to think about scalability, because any innovation that is not scalable is just theater, as simple as that. And I do know theater. So we we've been trying to develop these ideas about responsible innovation framework to help industries to innovate with purpose, but at the same time not being reckless.
Well, I love this. And so let me recap because I think this is actually really interesting, right?
Mm.
So, a responsible innovation framework needs to take into consideration purpose alignment, aligning objectives with human outcomes. The notion of an open ecosystem, because you're just not going to make progress when you're closed.
Hmm.
Governance, right? And you talked about a bunch of factors
Bias,
there.
drift, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, bias, drift, et cetera. And then two types of ROI,
Mm.
right? And a question about scalability. And I don't know how to put that in the framework, but you sort of stated this notion that innovation that isn't scalable is just theater, which is a great soundbite, by the way, and I
Mm.
agree with it. So,
Thank you.
so this framework for corporate innovators who follow this framework, who are deliberate about documenting purpose alignment, who are deliberate about reaching out to the open ecosystem, who are deliberate about setting up effective governance, right? Not just for bias and drift monitoring, but
Hmm.
for understanding the disruption, et cetera, et cetera. What can they expect? Like, what will change in their life if they follow this framework?
What will change? They will start delivering values to our human race. What will be able to deliver something to create a life to our people that will serve for generations to come.
I'm
I,
taking notes, by the way. I don't know if you see it on the video. I'm
no,
like,
I'm not
yeah, I
saying,
like this.
but honestly, because again, if the more I understand technology, the more I understand it should be human centric. It should serve us all, us globally, all communities in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in America, anywhere. It's not for a country or for a region, not at all. So when we talk about innovation, and innovation allows you to take this frog leaping into the future, like what's happening in the GCC, it's just amazing what I'm seeing. But we need that responsible innovation, similar to responsible AI, go hand by hand to ensure that we are serving the big purpose, which is a human-centric technology.
Incredible. Well, Hisham, I appreciate you and I appreciate uh, the impact that you can have in your new role, both with Qatar Airways, but also your role that has been evolving your entire career as a thought leader and advancing the state of the art in think how we think about innovation. You've given me a lot to think about, and I'm busy taking notes on frameworks and bullet points and ideas. But I think you've also, you've teed up this concept that is near and dear to my heart, right? Which is that there is inevitability to things that are happening in the world, whether it is the way in which we will get to interoping with data, whether it is the way in which new technological tools will support us, et cetera. And when you embrace that inevitability and then stop, pause, or a little bit thoughtful about how you respond to it, you can actually drive real change in the world. And I think that's super, super cool. um, Let me ask you as we sort of close, because we're a little over time here. I thank you for your time tonight.
Oh,
What is next for you in innovation? Do you have, some big hairy goals ahead of you that you're going to use to measure your success over the coming years?
that's a very good question. um, can I just talk about a point that crossed my mind as well while we're talking about the aviation and the financial
Yeah.
services and all of that. The similarities, they are completely different industries, but yet very close. If you think about it, it's just mind blowing. Just I was having this thinking now. Both these industries are customer driven. There's customer obsession in both of them. Correct? Like we as a human,
Yes.
I mean, what is the two most valuable things currently we have? Our lives, our souls, and our money. Correct? So
Hmm.
when we go to a bank, we trust a bank with our money. That's a deep level of trust. And when
Yes.
we go to airlines, we trust them with our life to people on this mechanical things and flown from place to place. That's a deep trust. So this
Yeah.
trust deep rooted customer obsession industries. So my next, I think I would love to be the joiner of different industries at some stage. Again, as we evolve and we have more open data flowing globally, internationally between us, I think industries will start linking, and the aviation will start talking with the financial services, we should start talking with the education, with all of that. And I would love to be contributor to that thing.
Amazing. And I'm sure I'm sure it is inevitable that there will be material contributions to this change. And so for folks who are listening to the pod and want to follow your journey, want to stay in touch, what's the best way for them to do that? Are you on LinkedIn? Do you publish? Where should folks go to follow your work?
I am on LinkedIn. I do publish from sometime to time. um, you can find me, just talk to me, stop me and just ask me questions. I love having coffees with random people. I do that. And I do have another vision, by the way, and you'll be surprised. It's somehow politically driven. I know you do not like to talk politics in your podcast, but I just again
Oh,
that
let's do it. No,
I
by the way, my degree is in politics. So
okay, let's do
I'm
it.
willing to dig in.
Um,
Let's go. No, tell me. I think you do have a really interesting vision. I think I know
I
where you're
do, I
going.
do,
So
I do, I do,
tell me
and
about
this is
this.
and this is driven from like most all my life in New Zealand, but I do have, as I said, a Palestinian background. So I see myself, just the way I see myself, I'm a bridge between East and West. I
Yeah.
do have the advantage of understanding the Eastern mind and the Western mind and how things work out. The Middle East has been like a war torn region for years and years and years.
Yes.
And if you just trying to narrow down a little bit, there is this tiny area. It's in the Golan Heights. It's between Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Israel, and Jordan. And this is like the center of tension of a lot of things. Like as we speak, yesterday there was some escalation over there. My dream to turn it to run a project or a vision or a program called it AI for Peace. I want to turn that region, that area, into the Silicon Valley of the Middle East. I want to bring all these big companies, tech companies, to establish there, to just start building technologies, give hope to the
Yeah.
region, give hope to the people over there. The people are so smart in the region. Ian.
Provide a vision of what should be possible. They are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I buy that in a heartbeat. I work with unbelievably talented engineers, business people from every one of those countries that you just named.
So if anybody out there listening and interested to have AI for peace to solve the peace process in the Middle East, I do have some plans. Reach out to me. I will talk to you.
Let's make that the rallying call of this podcast. Hisham, I really appreciate you coming on because I think you have a sort of an acute view of what can be possible in the world, but also some really big aspirations. And so, you are proposing innovation. You are proposing positive change that brings vision to a region that, takes advantage of the both technological and societal changes that are going on around us and provides a bit of a rallying cry for people who want peace. So let's do it. I'm on board. Get in touch with Dr. Alasad, anybody who wants to talk about this. And with that, Dr. Hisham Alasad, thank you so much for joining us on Innovators Inside. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to do it again.
Thank you very much, Ian, for having me. And let's always keep in mind that innovation is not about speed, it's about direction. And if we innovate responsibly and with a human in mind, we can build a future where people want to live in. That is the mission. Let's keep that in mind. Thank you very much, Ian.
Words well spoken. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Good night.